Hi everyone, my name is Chen, and this is my video response to Green Tea, a short story by Sheridan Le Fanu.
You're like green tea, a burst of energy. Just enough caffeine to get me through the day.
Have you ever wondered why the Mad Hatter is mad? And take a look at Alice. She looks mad. She looks mad AF. Is she mad as in crazy, or is she mad as in angry? Let's speculate. Hat making used to be very toxic. Hat makers began to use mercury in hat making as early as the 17th century. Mercury's certain properties help transform animal pelt into felt. This process is known as keratin. Keratin puts both hatters and hat wearers at risk. If you're interested in reading more about mercurial hats, Fashion Victims by Alison Matthews David has a great chapter on it. The hair color of Johnny Depp's character Mad Hatter, I think, is a direct reference to keratin. Lewis Carroll was interested in medicine, but the debates over whether his Mad Hatter was inspired by mercury poisoning symptoms remain unsettled. Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland came out in 1865, and Le Fanu's Green Tea came out in 1869. The two writers were contemporaries, although I do not know whether they knew each other. I couldn't stop thinking about Carroll's Mad Hatter as I read Green Tea. As Le Fanu's story tells us, drinking green tea is bad for you. You're not going to be able to sleep at night, you're going to see an evil monkey, you're going to have crazy suicidal thoughts. Green tea is bad. Perhaps Alice just had one cup too many green tea before she started seeing things. The Mad Hatter was mad because he's been wearing this toxic mercurial hat, and perhaps he's drunk a little too much green tea as well. Incidentally, Edgar Allan Poe has also written about green tea in his 1844 short story, The Oblong Box, which has been adapted into a motion picture, and which predates Le Fanu's short story by 25 years. Throughout the 19th century, physicians gave warnings of green tea's dangerous properties. And the tea itself, of course, speaks to the complicated relationship between the British and the Chinese governments. The British trade deficit with China was caused by a large amount of importations of Chinese commodities, including tea. And the British government tried to correct the deficit by exporting opium to China, which led to 2 opium wars, but that's a different story. In addition to the xenophobia embedded in the symbol of the tea, the figure of the monkey also begs more analysis. It may be a critical response to Darwin's theory, it may be a characterization of fruit fraud as monkey business. The story is historically rich and culturally nuanced. I love it. I also love how Le Fanu uses epistolary writings to give the story its multiple layers. There's the correspondence between Hacilius the physician and his patient, the Reverend Jennings. There's also this anonymous editor whose opening remarks help frame the entire story. But no doubt, Le Fanu is the author behind all these different voices. The framing device of a presiding anonymous editor in Green Tea reminds me of a short story by the founding father of modern Chinese literature, Lu Xun. The story is called Diary of a Madman. The story also opens with this presiding editorial remarks. Every Chinese student has read the story, which is an attack on Confucianism as cannibalism. It's not about green tea, but it also talks about madness, and I recommend it. Speaking of madness, tea, and China, let's return to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This novel's Chinese translation was first published in China in 1922. It is an instant hit. 6 years later, in 1928, the Chinese writer Shen Congwen, also known as the Chinese William Faulkner, published a novel called Alice's Adventures in China. Did Alice travel to China for all its tea? Non-Chinese readers will have to wait for its foreign language translations to find out. Editors, if you're watching this video, please help translate and publish this novel. Famous writers such as Charles Baudelaire, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Thomas de Quincey, Edgar Allan Poe, they've all turned to, artificial stimulants for their creative inspirations. I'm no writer, and I don't care what Le Fanu has to say about green tea. I love green tea, and I make the best green tea, cold brew green tea in Seattle. I used to hate green tea as a child. I thought it was bitter. Either that or my dad just didn't make really good tea. If you're ever headed this way, please be sure to let me know in advance, and maybe we can meet up for green tea. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.